up, guys? So we came downtown here. I came with Jeremy here. Where'd you go? There he is. And I thought I'd show you guys how to do some high-res shots with any camera. It'll work even with film camera if you got the patience to take a lot of shots, scan them in, and stitch them together. But we'll show you how to do that here. Catch you in a minute. So basically the principle of the whole thing is rather than using your wide-angle lens to get a shot of everything out there, which on my camera is 16 megapixels, that's what you'd end up with shooting a wide lens and getting, you know, a big landscape type thing. So if you, for instance, for me, the clip I'm going to show you here, I'm using the 135 f2.8 Minolta lens I've adapted over, and I'm going to take, I think it was 6 photos, and keeping the focus all the same, the aperture all the same, stop down a little bit for sharpness and everything, and what that allows you to do is connect them all together in a panorama in post, which we'll show you here later. But when you do that, if you use 16 megapixel photos, you end up with like a 80 or 90-ish megapixel photo in the end. So you will lose some of the resolution to cropping the borders, because the borders aren't going to line up, you know, just dead on, because you want to overlap your shots a little bit whenever you're shooting these. So you'll shoot one, overlap it, shoot one, overlap it, shoot one, go down with an overlap, shoot one, and so on and so forth. So you will lose a little resolution there, but you're going to end up with something that's massive, like 80, 90 megapixels. But yeah, that's what we're going to be doing here tonight. And I just thought I'd bring you along, show you guys how to do it. And it's a lot of fun. And you end up with some ridiculous stuff.
So here's where I learned that you can't take too many photos doing this technique. I missed a frame in one of the buildings on the left, and this would have been a much wider, higher resolution shot. As you can see here in this frame, we only ended up with 37.4 megapixels, but still the point comes across.
Alright guys, so I've just done an exposure here through these trees to frame it. I did a standard reference image with this 12 to 35 lens of this. We're zoomed in all the way to 70 mil equivalent right now. And did like 10 exposures with the 135 2.8.
So I exaggerated that a little on accident. I actually only ended up taking about 7 exposures in this. Still ended up with an 80.4 megapixel file though. And here's where it gets pretty cool when you crop in on this. Still pretty awesome sharpness for being a vintage 135 f2.8 lens.
Alright guys, so here I've got a good area I think will make for a good high-res shot. I'm shooting at the 50mm Minolta f1.7 on the camera. So seeing as this is micro four thirds in the stills, the aspect ratio is going to be different than this, but I'm thinking shoot a frame here, I'll pan over, get this, a little overlap there, come down and get this with some overlap, come over and get this with some overlap. So that can be 4 16 megapixel files to combine into one high-res photo that'll act like a wider angle lens than this 50.
So if you notice in the frame before this, you can see where I made the mistake with this one. If you're watching in the previous clip here, you can see the light on the building on the right side of this frame. It changes between blue and red, and I was not paying attention to that. So whenever I took my separate photos to stitch into this panorama. You can see how I didn't time it quite right, so there's that hard line there between the blue and the red on the building to the right. And the Devon Tower, which is the building on the left there, also has color changing lights, and there's a hard line there as well. So that's just something, I guess it's not really specific to every situation, but it is a lesson learned. If you're going to use this technique to create high-res files, you should probably pay attention to things that are changing within the frame just to be safe. But anyway, let's hop into the computer here, and I'll show you guys how to combine your individual photos into the high-res panorama photo. Alright, so I start off in Lightroom because I shot all of these photos in RAW. This is the 80 megapixel file from earlier in the video. Here's all the individual shots and components of that photo. So the way I start out is, like I said, I pop them all open in Lightroom here. And then I pick one, like I think this is the one that I picked to edit. So if you're shooting RAW, you want to go ahead and get your edits done here in Lightroom first, because once you're finished with the compiling all the images, you're going to end up saving them as a JPEG or a TIFF or something along those lines. So I'm not going to go too deep into what all I did over here editing. I might do that in another video if you guys would like to see a different take on the Lightroom portion of this. But what I do want to go ahead and say is I edited this one, got it to where I was happy with it, and then you can come over here to the copy paste area right here and click copy. I just leave everything as it pops up, hit copy, and then come over to your rest of your images in the sequence that you're going to compile and paste the settings with this button right here. That way you just edit the one photo, and since you shot them all in succession pretty close together, the light and everything should all be the same. It's the same subject. So you can paste your edits over to all of these individual files. So then what I did, I exported these to this Pano folder right here. So they were all together. Here's all of my individual stuff right there. And you don't have to do it on your desktop or anything. That was just easiest for me for this purpose. And then I'm using Microsoft Ice to compile my images. It's a free download. You can just Google Microsoft Ice, and it'll pull up Microsoft Image Compositing Editor, or Composite Editor. Man, I cannot speak. And that will bring you to here. So when you're here, we want to do a new panorama from images. And this is my Pano folder I was just showing you guys. And then we'll go through here and select all the images. We'll open them. We'll open all of these images here, and it'll bring you to this screen. Once you get to this screen, so far I've had fine luck just using the auto detect section. Hit next, and it's going to go ahead and put all of these files together for us. I may cut through this a little bit because it takes a couple of minutes since I've got the screen recorder and Resolve and everything else open right now. And then it's going to bring us here to this screen. So this one, if you would have selected something back on the import screen other than auto, it gives you more options here, but it did a fine job combining them. So we'll go ahead and hit next. And this is the crop. So this is what I was talking about in the first of the video, where I said we do lose a little resolution. As you can tell here, I went a little bit wider than I needed to over here and over here. Top and bottom of my frames don't line up exactly. So we'll just move these crop bars here until we cut out all the weird stuff. Pretty straightforward, self-explanatory. If you need to zoom, you can do that here. So we'll hit next again. And that brings us here to our final image pretty much. And it will show us all the size here. Here's our width, our height, our megapixel count. And then if you get to this point and you're not completely satisfied with your edit from Lightroom, I'd recommend going ahead and saving it as a TIFF. This gives you a little bit more to work with than a JPEG when you get to Lightroom. And then all you have to do is export to disk, and I was just saving them back into the Pano file And that's about all there is to it. So you just collect all your shots, pull them into Lightroom, give them a quick edit, open them up in Microsoft Ice. It stitches them together automatically extremely well. And just go through these steps and you have a super high res file, and in my case from a 16 megapixel camera. So thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video, I'd appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. If you have any other suggestions or ideas of things you'd like to see, be sure to leave them down in the comments. If there's something I wasn't particularly clear about in this video, let me know. I'd love to read what all you have to say, and I'll clarify if I need to on anything. So yeah, like I said, thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.